Date with the House on the mining of data from Kenyans by some foreign group. You had members yesterday raise their concerns. Is Muchungu here? Honorable Muchungu? Mukunji, sorry. Mukunji is around. He's the one who requested, but also Mother Wangari had also raised the same issue, and one other member. So Majority Leader, go ahead. In any case, the statement is the property of the House. It is not Mukunji's.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, as you have rightly said, the Honorable John Mukunji, MP Manyata, sought for a statement from the Cabinet Secretaries, Interior, and the Ministry of ICT on the foreign data collection company WorldCoin, collecting data from Kenyan citizens by way of scanning irises in exchange for some money. In particular, he sought that one, to state the steps the government is taking to ensure control of data, access, collection, and storage by foreign entities. Two, who licensed and authorized the biometric data collection by WorldCoin, and was the correct procedure followed. Three, safety guarantees that the government has put in place to ensure that the data will be exclusively used for the intended purpose and Kenyan citizens will not incur any loss. Four, the ultimate objective of this exercise and the purpose of the data collection. Five, the source of money being used to pay participants and who stands to benefit from this exercise. Six, precautionary steps taken by government on the already mined data. We state as follows, that is the two cabinet secretaries. One, an entity calling itself WorldCoin was reported to be harvesting eyeball/iris data from Kenyans for 3 days until yesterday in exchange for cryptocurrency tokens worth approximately Kenya shilling 7,000 on condition that the beneficiaries allowed the scanning of their eyeballs or iris. The aforesaid entity is not registered as a legal entity in Kenya. Preliminary investigations reveal that the entity has hired a company in Kenya called Sense Marketing to do the data capture for them in the country. Four, the local representatives of WorldCoin are one, a Mr. Emmanuel Otieno, who is described to be in charge of operations, and two, a Ms. Rael Mwende, who is described as a country manager. Both persons are being interrogated by the Directorate of Criminal Investigations, DCI, since yesterday, Wednesday, August 2nd, 2023. Among the foreign nationals associated with WorldCoin are a Mr. Poiter Piwowozik, who is on record to have entered Kenya on several occasions, the last one being in June 2023, whose arrival was on 11th of June 2023 and departure on the 25th of June 2023. Yesterday, the government, through the Ministry of Interior and National Administration, suspended the activities of WorldCoin in Kenya. Consequently, criminal investigations have commenced to establish the authenticity and legality of the aforesaid activities, the safety and protection of the data being harvested, and how the harvesters intend to use the data. 9, further, it will be critical that assurances of public safety and the integrity of the financial transactions involving such a large number of citizens be satisfactorily provided upfront. All the activities of WorldCoin and any other entity that may be similarly engaging the people of Kenya until relevant public agencies certify the absence of any risks to the general public whatsoever. As a precautionary measure, the immigration authorities have been directed to ensure that no persons, whether Kenyan or foreign nationals, associated with the entity leaves Kenya without the clearance of the Director of Criminal Investigations, who is in charge of the ongoing investigations. The investigations will also cover any persons of interest who may be outside the territory of Kenya in accordance with relevant international procedures and protocols on mutual legal assistance, MLA, and the exercise of extraterritorial jurisdiction. Earlier, the Office of the Data Protection Commissioner learned that the company had set up booths across the country to scan the iris of interested Kenyans on the 19th of April 2022. This was in anticipation of the launch of their cryptocurrency, which happened last week. The Office of the Data Protection Commissioner commenced its assessment of the organization in May of 2022. In the course of its assessments, the office initially suspended the operations of WorldCoin in May 2022 for a period of 60 days to ascertain the lawful basis and safeguards adopted by WorldCoin. Subsequently, the Office of the Data Protection Commissioner conducted a spot check on the 25th May 2023. The office again raised concerns with the processing activities of the entity and wrote to the entity on the 30th of May 2023 and directed immediate cessation of processing on sensitive personal data, namely iris and facial data of data subjects. The office further directed the WorldCoin safely restrict processing any data that had already been processed and advised the Office of the Safeguards placed on the restricted data. Mr. Speaker, sir, the government registered WorldCoin as a data controller pursuant to the Data Protection Act of 2019 and the Data Protection Registration of Data Controllers and Data Processors Regulation of 2021, registration regulations, which require as one compliance obligation that entities processing data should be registered with the office. Such registration is done by applying through the ODPC registration portal. An application for a certificate of registration only signifies that the entity has complied with Section 18 and Section 19 of the Act and does not endorse an entity's compliance with the Data Protection Act or its subsidiary regulations, nor is it a valid license for any organization to operate in Kenya or authorize operations of an entity. The certificate signifies that an entity is known to the Office of the Data Protection Commissioner, that it processes personal data of persons located in Kenya. Further, it does not amount to certification of the processing activities of an entity or serve as an endorsement from the Office of an entity's compliance with other provisions of the Act or any other laws. A registration certificate was issued to WorldCoin on the 18th April 2023, following the receipt of the requisite documentation pursuant to the Data Protection Registration Regulations. Mr. Speaker, sir, the government has commenced investigations to ensure that WorldCoin complies with the data collection, storage, and sharing principles. Immediate mitigation steps being undertaken are constitution of a multi-agency team comprising of security, financial services, and data protection agencies have commenced inquiries and investigations to establish the legality of the activities of WorldCoin, the safety and the protection of data collected with the aim to safeguard personal data and mitigate against any adverse practices. The government is not aware of any prior public participation exercise by the crypto firm. This is the reason the government issued cautionary statements by the Office of Data Protection Commissioner on the 28th of July 2023, advising the public to be vigilant when engaging with WorldCoin, and in particular when providing sensitive personal data. Further, the Communications Authority and the Office of Data Protection Commissioner issued a joint statement on the 2nd of August 2023, raising concerns on the operations of WorldCoin as they relate to cybersecurity, data protection, and consumer protection. The government is not aware of the source of funds. Part of the multi-agency team mandate will be to investigate the source of the money being issued to the participants and the beneficiaries of this activity. Honorable Speaker, the government has expressly directed WorldCoin to cease the collection of personal data and restrict the further processing of any data that has already been collected for persons located in Kenya. Further, there is need to sensitize Kenyans on the risk of cybersecurity attacks, data breaches, and the need for full disclosure before giving consent. The suspension of the processing of sensitive personal data was not lifted by the Office of the Data Protection Commissioner, ODPC. In particular, the office raised concerns on whether the consent sought from the individuals was voluntary or illusory. In this regard, the office noted that persons are requested to give consent and a monetary incentive provided for the exchange of sensitive personal data. This is a preliminary statement, Honorable Speaker, on a matter that is under active multiple investigations. Should the National Assembly require any further information or clarifications, we remain available to attend a request for a further statement or even in-person appearance, as may be directed by yourself, Honorable Speaker. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Signed by the Honorable Kithure Kindiki, Cabinet Secretary for Ministry of Interior, National Coordination, National Administration, and C.S. Eliud Owalo, Cabinet Secretary, Ministry of Information, Communications, and Digital Economy. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Martha Wangari.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and for also giving this very important issue the priority that it deserved. And Mr. Speaker, this issue has come up as an issue of national security, and I think what I would want to ask the Leader of Majority is that when you say consent, a person who is jobless, the lines that we saw around KICC, Mr. Speaker, that is not possible and is not applicable. And my questions to the Majority Leader, number one, the founder of WorldCoin is one US tech entrepreneur called Sam Altman. But if you read the terms of reference of WorldCoin, it is not usable or applicable in the USA. Mr. Speaker, if you're a resident of the US, if you're a company registered in the US, if you're a US citizen, you cannot access these tokens. And they are there for taking advantage of jobless Kenyan youth to actually lure them into some data mining that is not only illegal, but also evil. Mr. Speaker, the other thing I would